It's now our privilege to welcome back one of Africa's most powerful women, who I think you will all agree has been an amazing councillor for us so far. Please welcome back to the stage former public protector of South Africa, advocate Thuli Madonsela.
Just like to tell you a brief One Young World related story. We had an ambassador from One Young World 2010 from Australia, his name Chris Igeland. And after he qualified at law school and set up his own IT company extremely successfully, I saw him in London two and a half years ago, and he had been invited at that time to become an international advisor in the South African Constitutional Court. And he came to see me in London, and I said to him, you know, I know things are difficult constitutionally and in South Africa with the current leadership. And I said to him, how are things going? And he said, well, you know, on the court we're 24 young South African lawyers. And I said, what are they saying? And he said, they are in real despair at what's happening with their leadership. And I said, oh, that's so depressing. And he said, they only have one hope. And I said, what's that hope? And he said, it's the public protector. It's this woman here.
Thank you. Thank you, Kate. Thank you all. What can I say on impactful leadership to young people who already are leading impactfully? To young people who already are making a difference, not only in their countries, but making a difference globally. It is said that the test of leadership is followership. You will agree with me that you are leading if you influence others towards desired behavior or outcomes. And all of you sitting in this room are already leading. That's why it was difficult for me to think through what could I possibly tell you. What the things you're doing at your age are things I couldn't think of. Service was something I was destined to do. But the incredible stories that I've heard from you far outreach what my generation was doing at your age. But you've come at the right time. In Africa, we say, you are the ones we've been waiting for. Because our troubled world is crying for ethical, purposeful, impactful, and committed leadership. You can use the acronym EPIC to just remember all of that. In South Africa, we were lucky that during the years of apartheid, people who had started leading at your age for many years crafted a vision of a country they wanted to belong to and a world they yearned for. And one of them is Nelson Mandela. But one of the things we pick up from the way they led and the way they tried to take us forward is the fact that they were ethical, they were purposeful, they were impactful, and committed. Ethical in that they did the right things the right way, not the end justifies the means. Purposeful, because whatever they did was designed for a purpose. Covey talks about always begin with the end in mind. And if you're purposeful, you have to always keep the end in mind in your actions. If, for example, you're leading people and you say, we've been harmed, let's harm, let's kill, you've got to understand that killing someone is an event, and if your purpose is peace, you can't get peace through fighting fire with fire. Because what happens is you win one battle, and tomorrow somebody else wins the battle. So they were purposeful, impactful. I have learned that we lead even when you don't intend to lead. For example, if somebody in this room is regarded as cool, they can show up with torn jeans that are totally torn. And maybe torn because they really didn't have the facilities to sew those jeans. So they walk around with torn jeans, but because we think they're cool, pretty soon we'll be wearing torn jeans. That's leadership. But it's not intended, it's unconscious leadership, and sometimes the impact is not what you desire, and that becomes important to realize the impact that you have on people, because you may lead when you don't intend to lead. You may be wanting people to go to one place, but be leading them elsewhere because they're following what you're doing, they're following what you say when you are unguarded. And people like Nelson Mandela, his generation, the Walter Sisulu's, Mama Albertina Sisulu, Helen Joseph, Helen Suzman in South Africa, kinds of leaders we had, they always were conscious on the impact they're having, even during their unguarded message. Even during their unguarded moments, the message was consistent. Lastly, committed. If you're a leader, of course, committed to a cause, you've got to stay the journey. Young leaders, you will agree with me, that are no longer tomorrow's leaders. And when this young lady walked onto stage, the day we arrived here on Wednesday, the entire room applauded as if we had the president of the country or the president of the world. Why? Because she's leading. She has chosen to use the space she has to make a difference in the world, and young people are leading. She was already being followed because she was Hermione in Harry Potter, and of course people were following her then, but she has decided to use the power she has for a good cause. She's leading without a title and making a difference, and all of you, I've listened to several stories, are already making that difference. But the question is, you are already leading, where are you leading us to? There's a poem that I have found extremely interesting. It's called The Cold Within. You can either be leading us to the cold, or you could be leading us to Ubuntu. Ubuntu is about you are because I am. My humanity is tied up with you. If you're suffering, whether you're in Syria or in Sudan, it will impact me because we're tied up by the very fact that we're humans, and we call it Ubuntu, the sense of understanding our interconnectedness. But there are the other option is what James Patrick Kinney calls the cold within. When he talks about 5 people who were trapped by what he calls happenstance. They were sitting around the fire, and they all had a log in their hand, and they had an opportunity to revive the fire. The first one chose not to revive the fire because he looked across the room and saw somebody who didn't belong to their church, not even a different religion, a different church. The next one held on to his log because he looked across and saw somebody from a different racial group. The third one looked around, and he was rich. He saw a poor person and said, the lazy poor. I'm not going to have them have the benefit of my log. The poor person, not knowing what the rich person was thinking, looked around and said, the filthy rich, he's not going to have my log. The fifth person was from a historically, racially discriminated group, looked around and said, these people are from the group that has always historically disadvantaged us. They're not going to get this log again. And the last one, a mercenary who never did anything but for gain. decided to hang on to his log, looking around the room and said he wouldn't benefit anything from the people in the room. And in the end, they held on to their logs in a cold, dark night. James Patrick Kenny, a Christian here, next door to you in the United States, writes, they did not die from the cold within. Well, they did not die from the cold without. They died from the cold within. And sitting around the room, I know that you will not let us die from the cold within. Because I'm certain that wherever you are, you're carrying a log and you're trying to make a difference. But all I ask is, what is that log? Is it the kind of log that you are using to light a fire, to light the flame of freedom, the flame of peace, to unite the world? Or are you choosing anger, despair, and revenge, as some of these people did, which drives us deeper into the abyss as humanity? You'll agree with me that as long as there is injustice somewhere, there can't be sustainable peace anywhere. In South Africa, the young ones have reminded us, and they've started a social justice movement with various things that must fall. It started with roads must fall, and now they're saying fees must fall. But basically, fees must fall is saying a child who is born in a rural village should not find themselves being unable to go to university when they've passed properly at high school, simply because they don't have money. And once they're at university, they shouldn't sleep in the bathroom or in the library because they have nowhere to go. They shouldn't live on a loaf of bread for a week, or sometimes go totally hungry because there is no food. And that's part of this fees must fall movement. They're also saying that the ones who are not too poor, the children of nurses, the children of teachers, they may be able to afford food, but they can't afford to go to university. They shouldn't be condemned to a life of no education because as a nation, we're unable to galvanize enough resources to meet their right to education, which is protected in the Constitution. What is expected of us when it comes to sustainable peace? Each one of us has a log, and one of those logs is just a log of kindness. I mean, the panel that I've just listened to right now, one of the things that is needed is kindness, understanding. Yesterday, I had the incredible opportunity to introduce 3 young people, Nina, Melissa, and Kevin. They realized that they had logs in their hands, which are education, and they've decided to use those logs to create the world they want to live in. And that's the world where everyone's life is improved because their talents, their human potential is liberated. What log do we have in our hands? I am certain that you all have logs. And I've listened to all of you, or to some of you, incredible ideas and incredible projects. That's all I needed to do. And should you care about governance as young people? Yes, I think we should. And the UN has said we should care, because even if you're doing great things in your little corner, if those who are governing are not doing the right thing, they will mess up, because we're one universe. In the past, we always thought that only the old people, like me, should govern. But this country is one example that shows you that you don't have to be old even to govern. We were met by a president who we battled to remember that this is the president. And it just shows that age doesn't matter. If you are gifted, use your log, whatever that log is. What lessons have we learned from the Public Protector South Africa about using your log and leading wherever you are and making an impact? Is one of the things that we have learned is you don't need a title. The Power Protector of South Africa is a high-level officer, an independent officer. However, the Power Protector does not have political power, does not have the power of the sword, command of the army, command of the purse. And what do you depend on? Persuasion. And part of persuasion, which applies to us regardless of where we are, is people sometimes are more persuaded by what we do every day, the impact we're making through our own behavior rather than the things that we say. Well, the things that we say are equally important, especially if they are consistent. As a Power Protector South Africa, we've chosen to use the symbol of a makatsi. A makatsi is a person in one of the ethnic communities in South Africa. She's an aunt, powerful without a title, and they say her job is to be the eyes and ears of the people. She's the eyes and ears of the king and the voice of the people. And a wise king listens, and a foolish one ignores her at his peril. And as a Power Protector, we do just that. We whisper truth to power. We have power given to us by the Constitution to investigate, report, and take appropriate remedial action. And the Constitutional Court has said we can even cause the president to do whatever we choose to make him do if it's consistent with the law and the Constitution. But the power of the office, which is the same power that you have as leaders, is really the power to persuade through consistency, through doing the right thing, and which is part of what I talk about as epic leadership. If you think you're too small to make a difference, think of a mosquito. That's an African proverb. I've met some young people who are saying, you know, I don't have money, I don't have a big constituency, a big network. Can I make a difference? Yes, you can. Just through kindness. Do you know that sometimes you can change somebody's life by just smiling? By just asking them, who are you? Where do you come from? Why are you sad? Because sometimes people just feel invisible and they just want somebody to notice them and to realize that they're humans, they matter. But I'm certain that you can do more than that. But how do you become impactful leaders? There's a scale that I use in my own life. It's called the V to L scale, victim to leader scale. And the victim to leader scale is that in any situation, how do I react in any situation that I'm confronted with? Do I react as a victim or do I react as a leader? Sometimes I measure myself per situation, sometimes I measure myself per day. If you are a leader, it's always looking at how can I make a difference, what have I learned from this, how do I move things forward. When I react as a victim, it's blaming, it's complaining, it's finding who else has done this. I'm the victim. Impactful leadership or epic leadership requires sustainable solutions to personal, business, community, and global challenges. And if you use the idea of epic leadership, you can use it to solve your day-to-day challenges, you can use it to solve global challenges, and you can use to solve community challenges. It's really about always looking at how do we solve this problem? How do we solve this problem? How do I become, what is the purpose? What is my purpose in this situation? What impact do I want to make and staying committed? Part of what we need in terms of the trouble we have today, our troubled world, is reimagining the world. The world we want to live in, where there's joy, where there's peace, where everyone thrives. I would say that it calls for a win-win paradigm. And that's part of epic leadership. We've been told that you must lose for me to win. I don't think so. That's why we have a troubled world, because we think like that, win-lose. The second thing is to transcend the notion of just us and think about world solutions that are looking at justice for all, social justice for all. Delegates, the world we yearn for lies in our collective hands. I am certain that it can be achieved. I've been inspired by you. I've been inspired by your stories. I've been inspired by the positive attitudes that are filling this space. And I'm certain that, like little mosquitoes, when you go back to wherever you came from, you're going to continue to make a difference, and you'll magnify that difference. Thank you, One Young World, for possibility thinking. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.